In this week's Parsha, we meet Avram Avinu, Abraham, the father of monotheism as we know it today. Abraham is an interesting person. He's somebody who we typically associate with chesed, with kindness. He's the one with the open tent. He's the one who is running to do kindness to other people, including the famous incident that we read about next week with the three angels that come when it's hot right after circumcision. That is the paradigm, that's the model, that's the vision that we have of Avram Avinu. And yet at the same time, there's incident after incident that doesn't seem to line up with this picture of this, what I would imagine to be this great guy. You know, somebody, if I had to be with him, or imagine what it was like to be with him, you would think, of course, very saintly, very holy, but just very caring and very special as well, and somebody you'd want to be around. And yet, there's incident after incident where Avram takes on a stern, strict, more almost ruthless demeanor and set of actions. For example, destroying all the idols in his father's house when he was a young boy, distancing himself from Lot, and the challenges associated with that difficult relationship. Other times as well, including, of course, the famous story of the Akedah, where he bound his son Yitzchak on the Mizbeach, which is described in next week's Parsha. And coming back to this one for a second, the very beginning of the Parashas Lech Lecha, leaving his father's house, leaving his entire family, not only disrupting his own family, but separating himself from his broader family really forever. So how can we reconcile this chesed Avraham, this Avram of kindness, this Avram who's just very, very giving, with one who seems to draw a strong line and do things that may not necessarily be in tune with his character? And I think the answer is pretty simple. Avram was an Eved Hashem, first and foremost. He knew that fulfilling God's will, whatever that ultimately was, putting himself out there in a difficult society which did not believe in Hashem, that wanted to own the world, so to speak, on their own and rebelled against Hashem in previous generations. That was the world into which he was born. That was the paradigm and the mindset that he needed to change. And sometimes you do that with chesed, with kindness. Sometimes you do it with firmness. Sometimes you do it with bold action. It's ultimately whatever the situation dictates that you take action forward and you do what needs to be done. And so Avram was able to put aside, so to speak, his character on some level so that he could fulfill his ultimate goal, which was to serve God. And that, I think, really is a powerful message, a great takeaway for this week's Parsha, is that we have our own inclinations, our own personality, our characteristics, the things that make us us. And yet at the same time, we have responsibilities, we have mitzvos, we have dictates, we have requirements to live as a Torah Jew in a, oftentimes, especially nowadays, it seems, hostile environment, which is not open to the values that we espouse and the behaviors that we need to put forth. And we need to find a way to reconcile those two, but we have to remember that our personality has to fit within that mold and not the opposite around. It's not, if it's comfortable for me, I'll do it. If it's not comfortable for me, I won't. It's, I got to make it work because that's what Hashem wants for me. And now here is my pathway forward. So I wish everybody a wonderful Shabbos. Hope all of you will take inspiration from this idea and think of ways continually to adjust your own approach and your own personality and your own strengths as well as weaknesses or setbacks, obstacles, whatever those might be, to adjust them to say, what does Hashem really want and how do I make myself fit into that picture?